Was there a meeting this morning? 7 o'clock? Okay. Is there a 7 o'clock meeting?
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not going to resolve the situation until after Yom Kippur.
Well, if a couple of these people get, no, they'll be coming back once they're done with COVID.
I'm no better. I'm leaving also.
Yeah, but it's summer. People go away. They come back. Right. All right, I'm going to start our sponsors, and then we'll go on. And we've got a couple of administrative items to deal with this morning, too. A year of learning, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova, Bad Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna, Bad Yitzchak Ahara. Many friends of Stephen Vigdal, Zecha Nishmat, Simcha Melech, Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Iser. A Month of Learning by Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of Jill's mother, Bela Bas Abraham, and Perry's father, David Ben Fishel Halevi. Mark Linder, in memory of his mother, Yonah Bat Zalman Leib. Rabbi Isaac Schmerler, in memory of his wife, Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac, and friends of Marilyn Schmerler, in her memory, Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. A Week of Learning by Judy Iger, in memory of her father-in-law, Shlomo Michal Ben Aharon, by Sid Paris, in memory of his wife, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dov. Jack Gilman, in memory of his mother, Elka Bat Yeshayahu. Alan Blumenfeld, in memory of his father, Gershon Ben Achaver Pinchas Kohen. David Mindel Cheslow, in memory of his mother, Bela Bas Meir. Sam and Shifra Coleman, in memory of his father, Yaakov Ben Shmuel. Today we have a day of learning by Rabbi Moshe Kranzler, in memory of his father, Yerachmiel Ben Moshe Nachum. And also again, Refuah Shlema for Peretz Semach Ben Yaakov Yitzchak. And Shamas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafir, Velti Yeshua Shema Tzliah, and the Chol B'nai Israel, good Gaben Shtir.
Amen.
Okay. I clarified with Rabbi Yasker the situation of learning regarding Tisha B'Av. So there will not, of course, be a shiur Sunday morning. That was understood. The question I had was basically, what about Shabbos in the afternoon? Okay, particularly because it was a nidche. Did that make a difference? And he explained to me that there's a machloket, okay, on the issue, that generally the shul's minhag is after chatzot not to have public learning. Okay, so I'm phrasing it that way because some people may have private, particularly those who go to Hashkama, may have private learning. If they do it before chatzot, that would appear to be acceptable. Okay, so we will not have, that implies that there is none scheduled for this Shabbos afternoon either. So we will try to move as much as we can over the next days to cover as much as we can, okay, in terms of the Gemara.
So 2 days in a row, no daf.
Well, no public daf.
No problem.
Right, okay. So that's why I say if I seem to be adding a little bit more where I can, you'll understand why, all right? Okay, I'm doing the best. All right, so where are we today? Right, okay. So we got about a quarter, it's a short piece here. Got about a quarter, right? Down the Amud, okay, it is, if you see where the Tosafot starts off, Ein Batar, right? We're about 4 lines below that. It's a Braita. Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. That's where I'm going to, that's the new material, okay? Right, but I'm just going to go back very quickly, okay? Again, we saw trying to determine the status of somebody, the lineage of somebody as a Kohen. Okay, they used various attempts. Okay, Nisiat Kapayim was one, Duchening. Number 2 was eating Truma. Number 3 was eating Challah. Number 4 was the distribution of priestly portions. Okay, whether it's a grain or other even priestly portions. So all of these were attempts to utilize them as a basis to say, if the person is seen doing any of these items, okay, is that enough to give us the validity to upgrade them to say their lineage is a Kohen, right? So just a short intro for this morning, okay? All right. So then we got this story on the top of Kaf Vav Amud Aleph about the fellow who says they pulled him out of school and they immersed him and his friends didn't play with him or hang out with him, okay? Because they called him the challah eater, okay, whatever that might imply. But the implication is it was Masiach Lafi Tumo, says the Gemara, that indicated that the person was a Kohen, okay? So that was the point. And then we saw Rabbi Chia Messiah Ba, Rabbi Chia added to it, B'chaveri B'dilin Mimeni, his friends separated, distanced themselves from him, Bayu Karino Ti Yochanan Ochil Chalot, all right, that he was that, Ve'alehu Rabbi Lekuhuna Alpi. That's where we stopped, okay? So we're, as I said, on Kaf Vav, Amud Aleph. It's about 8 lines down, okay? Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer. So in this Braita, Kashem shetruma chazaka lekuhuna, the same way that truma might be a way of indicating that there is a presumption of his priestly status. Kach ma'aseh rishon chazaka lekuhuna. So maybe likewise, the giving of first tithe could be a presumption of his kahuna. Now, all of a sudden, our sort of a flag, red flag should go up, okay? Why all of a sudden Maaser Rishon? Shouldn't that be to the Levi, right?
That's the worst question.
Okay, so why all of a sudden should that be a criteria to use for Kohanis?
Correct.
Okay, so what happens? V'hach, right? So the Gemara now goes on, okay? Kach Maaser Rishon Chazakuna, v'hacholek b'veit din eina chazakah. But if they gave it out, in other words, if they decided that that individual could get Maaser Rishon by the Beis Din, that does not provide the presumption. So the Gemara picks up on this. Maaser Rishon de Levihu. But don't we say that ordinarily Maaser Rishon goes to the Levi? Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, the Tanya, who taught as follows: Truma leKohen, that Truma goes to Kohen. Maaser Rishon leLevi. Okay, this would be what I'm going to call for the moment the quotes normal structure of Trumot to Masrot. Okay, Divrei Rabbi Akiva. That's the view of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, man, what does he say? Maaser Rishon af leKohen, that the Kohen also may receive Maaser Rishon. Okay, why is that Rabbi Eliezer's view? Okay, and why might the Gemara base it on this, on his particular perspective? Emor, I might say, the Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, af leKohen, even for a Kohen, leKohen v'lo Levi, that it should go to the Kohen and not the Levi. So the Gemara asks, Mi Amar, according to whom is that? And yes, but Tar de Kansinhu Ezra, it's after the fact that Ezra made a knas, let's call it a penalty. I'll use it that way, okay? Okay, well, I like it. Penalty
Is a better
I
word.
think fits better
Right.
here. Why? Because remember, there were many Leviim that refused to leave Bavel and go up with him to Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so said the Gemara is telling us basically what did he do? As you said, he made a decree that was a penalty for the Leviim, that therefore came more of
They should have
Maser
received
Rishon,
Maser Rishon, and
right?
then the Kohanim did.
Okay, and that's why that was the case. So the Gemara says, "V'dilma ikrei, ikreu v'yahavule." Okay, maybe what was called. Okay, maybe because sometimes we find in the Torah that they're called Kohanim Leviim, that they're actually named as almost the same group. Okay, maybe that's the reason. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, Hacha b'mayaskinen. What are we talking about then? Kagon shemuchzak lan ba'avuha, the high kohenhu. No, we're talking about a situation where there is a presumption from his ancestors, his father, that he is a kohen. V'nafak aleh, and the kala, and there was publicity, there was a rumor, right? The ben grusha u ben chalutzahu, some sort of bad rumor that he was the son really of a grusha or of a chalutza, which would make him a halal and therefore would not be eligible. Okay, v'chalku ledidei maser bebeit hagranot. Okay, but nevertheless, okay, they did apportion him, okay, tithes in the granary. Okay, so the Gemara asks, a Levi, was he then only a Levi? The Lav Levi, but that is not appropriate for a Levi to get portions in the granary. Mai ikalamema. So then, what are you trying to tell us? Ben grusha or ben chalutzahu? Does this mean that he was the son of a divorcee or the son of a chalutza? Is that the situation? Lo mebaye. Okay, leman da'amar ma'aser rishon asul zarim. We don't even have to, it's not necessary in a sense to tell us, to teach us that in regarding to Maaser Rishon, it's forbidden to a non-Kohen. The lo havu yahavele.
It's forbidden to a Yisroel,
Right.
not a Levi.
Okay, all right. The lo havu yahavele ela af. Okay, that they're not going to give it
So
to him.
this
This fellow,
Kola is not even
right?
is a Yisroel.
Okay, so this individual,
Could not eat
okay,
Maaser Rishon.
the individual, were he to be a Levi, maybe we might have thought did something, okay, but he's clearly not a Levi. Afilu laman, right? So lahavele ella afilu laman damar maaser rishon mutar lazarim. Even if we were going to hold that that once the decree was made, okay,
No, the Maaser
that
Rishon
Maaser
can be eaten by
Rishon,
anybody.
okay, could be eaten by a
Levi, even a Jew,
okay,
even
a
Yisroel.
non-Kohen.
Right.
Okay, in that case, hani mili lemispak laho. That's only a situation where it's to provide some sort of sustenance to him. Aval b'torat chaluka, but in regards to a portion that's distributed at the granary, lo yahavele, that would not be given to him. V'hacholek
Also, a few that did do it, they lost out because majority of people did not want to come back.
right? V'hacholek b'beit din eina chazaka, and one who for some reason may have received a portion as a result of the Beis Din, that is not enough of a presumption to establish their Kohanim status. Okay. So Gemara picks up. Iba Beit Din lo havya chazaka, hecha havya chazaka. If receiving a portion as distributed by the Beis Din did not provide the legal presumption, what does? Right? Amar Rav Sheshet, says Rav Sheshet, hachikama. This is what it means to tell us. Hacholek truma benichse aviv, one who receives truma as part of his inheritance from his father. Okay, im echav beveitin, with his brothers in the court. Eina chazakah. That is still not an adequate presumption of his Kohen status. Pshita, that's obvious, says the Gemara. Mahu detema. So then what are you trying to tell us? Midahenach la'achila, hainami la'achila. Maybe since they receive it for purposes of eating, he too receives it for purpose of eating. Kamash malan, hanach la'achila, hai lizavune. They received it for the purpose of eating. He received it for the purpose to sell it. That's the point. So therefore, while he may have received in the Beis Din a certain amount of produce that was truma, that does not prove of his Kohen status. Okay? Okay. We now go on. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, this is Rabbi Yehuda, Ein ma'alin lekuhuna al pi eid echad v'kuli. We do not raise up somebody to the status of a Kohen based on the testimony of a single witness. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Hainu Rabbi Elazar. This is the machloket between Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer.
Now, what is the difference between?
Okay, right. Well, that's part of their machloket. And what's the difference between them? B'chi tema. And if you want to say, our heir chad ika beinayim, that's the issue of a challenge by one witness is the difference between them. The Rebbe Eliezer savar chad v'Rashbag savar trei. That Rebbe Eliezer says it's a challenge by a single witness, whereas Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says is of the opinion that the challenge has to be by two witnesses, right? Ha'omer Rabbi Yochanan, but did not Rabbi Yochanan say, Divrei Hakol ein arer pachot mishnayim, that according to everyone, there is no challenge about the status, okay, all right, of the individual with less than two. Ela rather, hacha b'may yaskinen. What are we talking about? De muchzak lan ba'avuha, the high de kohenu, that there is a presumption, okay, based on the father that he is a kohen. V'nafak alei kala the ben grusha or ben chalutzahu. And there was, let's use a rumor here in this case, that he was the son of a divorcee or the son of a chalutza. Va'achtine, and they downgraded him. Va'ata eid echad, va'amar yadana bei de kohenu. And along comes one witness, and he says, I know that he's a kohen. What happens? Va'askine, and then they upgraded him. All right. Va'atu beitrei, va'amre ben grusha o ben chalutzu. Then along came a pair of witnesses, right? And they said, no, he's the son of a divorcee, or the son of a chalutza. Va'achtine, and they downgraded him again. Va'ata eid echad, va'amar yadana bei de kohenhu. And then along came another single witness. And he says, but I know he's a Kohen. Udechuli alma mitztarfin la'edut. And does everybody really hold that the testimony of each of the single witnesses can be joined together? Okay? Bahacha b'michash leziluta de beidina kemiflagei. And maybe here we have to be suspect to the disdaining of the court. Maybe that's what they're arguing about. Tanakama savar kevan da'achtine. Tanakamas of the opinion that since they downgraded him, lo maskinanly, we don't raise him up again.
Then it looks like the court doesn't know what they're doing.
Exactly. Chayshinan leziluta de beidina. Why? Because then we suspect that people will have a low opinion, a disdaining of the court. Whether they lower him, up him, lower him back and forth, they don't know what they're doing, right? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel savar anan achtinan le va'anan maskinan le v'leziluta de beidina lo chayshinan. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel perhaps is of the opinion that the court may lower him, the court may raise him, and as regards to disdain for the court, that's not something we're suspicious about. We don't have to deal with. However, Matkifla Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi challenges this, and he says, "Ihachi afilu trei v'trei nami." If that's the case, if you're going to argue that we're concerned about the status of the court, okay, even when you have two witnesses versus two witnesses, you'd still have the same problem. Even that's if you joined the testimony of the two individuals, you'd still have 2 versus 2. Ela amar Rav Ashi, but rather Rav Ashi tells us, umitztarfin la'edut k'meflegei. What they're arguing about is the ability to join the testimony. That's the argument. Ubeplugta dahani tanai, and this was the machloket of these Tanaim. The Tanya, as we're taught in the Braita, ein edutan mitztarefet ad sheyir'u shnehem ke'echad, that their testimony cannot be joined until the two of them saw the incident, I'll say for the moment, as one at the same time. Okay? Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha Amar, what does he argue? Afilu bazeh achar zeh, even if they saw it one after the other. Okay.
What is the situation we had separately, this separate from this, where you had witnesses who
one person says,
no, you could prove a witness was wrong, right? You had that type of witness. This was not from this Gemara, this was previously, when you had witnesses who you said these witnesses were wrong, they were liars.
Right. That's right. So, that's a different situation. It's not here. Okay. But well, let's put it this way. I mean, yes, ultimately you could challenge, right? I mean, you could have a situation that, let's say, I don't know.
In New Jersey, they couldn't have been witnesses.
Right.
Well, that's Eidim Zomim.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, let's take an example where, Zev sees something at the gym, happen at the gym when he goes this morning. And then you happen to have a meeting at 11 o'clock, okay? Also near the gym, also in the clubhouse, and you happen to see something. It may be that you saw the same person or the same situation at different times, okay? So here, that's what he's arguing is achar zeh, all right? But what happens? The Gemara goes on, okay, right? But happens ve'ein edutan mitkayemet b'beit din ad sheyidu shnehem ke'echad. But in that case, he puts a caveat on it, Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha, that the two of you would both have to then at least give your testimony at the same time. That was to be the point, he would say. Rabbi Natan Omer, and Rabbi Natan is even more lenient, Shom'in devarav shel zeh hayom, ukesheyavo chavero lemachar shom'im devarav. There could be a time difference when they give their testimony. They don't even have to give testimony at the same time. One could give it one day and one can give it another day.
But couldn't conditions change in the interim?
No, but the idea is that they're giving testimony about the same thing that they saw, even though they did not appear to the court.
In other words, they saw it at the same time.
Right. Right. They could have. Right. You both could have seen a car accident.
All right, but it happened. Only one happened to be here today, and one came tomorrow.
Right.
Right. Uh-huh. But they both saw the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
Otherwise, there could be a change in conditions.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, it's a possibility one saw it on the north side, the other one saw it on the south side.
Sure. Could be. All right.
They're not standing next to one another.
Okay, so what happens here? Okay, so Rabbi Yoshua seems to imply there's no merger of the testimony, whereas Rabbi Shimon says the merger, okay, and that would be enough to restore the person to being a Kohen. Okay, right? So that was the end of that discussion. Okay, new Mishnah. Okay, we're back to the example of women that were captured. Ha'isha shenichbasha b'yedei ovdei kochavim. Some texts may have b'yedei goyim. Okay, right? So what happens? Why was she being held, okay, in this prison? If it was al yedei mamon, for the purpose that her husband owed them money, okay, and therefore they were using this as a way of forcing the husband to pay, okay, right? Therefore, the idea being, if something happens to her, the husband may not pay. So therefore, they're not going to mishandle her in order to guarantee that the husband will pay up the money. Therefore, muteret leba'ala. She therefore would be permitted, after she leaves the jail or the prison, back to her husband, even if he's a Kohen. Okay? Al yedei nefashot. But on the other hand, if she's been imprisoned because the authorities want to get the husband because he's being charged with some sort of criminal case, major criminal case, okay?
She herself was judged.
Or that could be,
Right.
all right?
Rashi says that.
That's what Rashi wants to bring, that she's the criminal,
Right.
okay? But I felt from the Koran that they were saying it could be that, again, the husband, because that was the first example, that therefore she may have very little hope, okay, that they're not going to harm her, okay, if they can't get the husband. So she may allow herself then to have relations with the jailer or whatever, in the hopes that that would then allow her to live if she's the criminal, or allow her to get free if and when they do capture the husband. Okay? So asura leba'ala. In that case, all right, in either situation, she would be prohibited to her husband. Okay? Now the Gemara picks up. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Lo shanu ela sheyad Yisrael tekifa alav de kochavim. We only taught this in a situation where the Jewish authorities were superior in the situation. Okay, they were in control. Aval yad of de kochavim, or yad goyim tekifa al atzmam, but where the Gentiles were in more the governing authority, okay, in that situation, afilu al yedei mamon asura leba'ala. Even in a situation then, when she was only jailed in order to try to force the husband to pay back loans or whatever, then she then would be prohibited to the husband, okay? Because we don't know that what the behavior of the jailers would be. Meitiv,
They're the ones in control.
they're the ones in control, right? Meitiv Rava, says Rava challenging. He'id Rabbi Yossi HaKohen. But Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, along with Rabbi Zechariah ben HaKatsav, the two of them brought testimony. Al Bat Yisrael, Shahur Hana Ba'ashkelon, that she was taken as collateral, okay, in Ashkelon. Okay, and it's important that the story here designate the location, because Ashkelon, remember, was a mixed city. At times, it was under more Jewish control. At times, it was under more Gentile control. Okay? What happens? V'richkuha b'nei mishpachta, and the members of her family distanced themselves from her because they assumed that she was tmeya. Let's use that phrase, right? Ve'edeha me'aidim ota shelo nistara v'shelo nitma'a. But other witnesses, okay, who were there, let's assume in the jail with her at the same time, okay, testified that she was never secluded with the non-Jews authority or ever became tmeya. Va'amru lahem chachamim, and the sages said in this case, imatem ma'aminim shehurhana, if you believe that she was held as collateral, in other words, only, right? He'aminu shelo nistara v'shelo nitma'a. Then you need to believe that she was never secluded and never became tme'ah. Ve'im iatem ma'aminim shelo nistara v'shelo nitma'a. And if you're not willing to believe that she wasn't secluded and wasn't tameah, al ta'aminu shehurhana, then don't believe that she was held as collateral. So the Gemara goes on to clarify. Vaha Ashkelon, diyad of de kochavim tekifa al atzma. But Ashkelon, at least at that time of the incident, was a city where the Gentiles had, so to speak, literally the upper hand. Okay? That's a good loose translation of, right? Okay? Al atzma. Ukatani. And what are we taught? Let's go over to the next Amud a bit, right? Hurhana, and if she was held as collateral, yes, she needs witnesses to indicate that she hasn't been violated. Nichbasha, but if she was held captive, okay, in other words, clearly imprisoned in that situation, lo, that's not the case. Hu hadin afilu nichbasha. No, the Gemara says, okay, even if she were captives, we would still need witnesses to prove she's okay. Umasa shahaya, and there was a situation kachaya, and the reason we told the story this way was because that's how the story evolved.
Right.
Okay, let's go on a bit. All right, just double checking our time. All right.
Okay.
We're okay?
5 after.
5 after. Oh, yeah. All right.
Move off to the mission if you want.
Well, we'll see. Depends. Okay. All right. All right. So Gemara continues. Ika da Amre. There are those who say the situation as follows. Amar Rava, says Rava, Af ananami tanina. So we also learned as follows. He'id Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, the Rabbi Zechariah ben Hakatzav, that the two of them gave testimony. Al Bat Yisrael Shahurhana ba'Ashkelon, about a Jewish girl Jewish woman, who was held as collateral in Ashkelon. V'richkuha b'nei mishpachta, and her family distanced themselves from her. Ve'edeha me'idim aleha, shelo nistara v'shelo nitma'a. And the witnesses testified, okay, about her that she was not secluded and not tme'ah. Va'amru chachamim, and the sages said, imatem aminim shahurhana, if you believe she was held as collateral, he'aminu shelo nistara v'shelo nitma'a. Believe that she wasn't secluded and wasn't tme'ah. Ve'im einatem maminim shelo nistara v'shelo nitma'a. And if you don't believe, okay, that she wasn't secluded and wasn't tme'ah, al ta'aminu shahurhuna. Don't believe that she was held as the collateral. Vaha Ashkelon, the al yedei mamon hava. And in Ashkelon, that was an incident that they were holding her because of monetary issues. V'tama da'edim me'idin ota. And the reason being that the witnesses testified about her, ein edin me'idin ota. But if there had been no witnesses to testify her, lo, then no, she would not be permitted back to her husband. My love, delo shna, Hana, velo shana nechmasha. Isn't it not that we're saying that there's going to be a difference?
There is no difference.
That there is no difference.
No, there's
Right,
no
Loshana, no difference between her being held for collateral and being held actually as a captive. So the Gemara answers, Lo Hurhana Shani, the fact that she was not as the collateral. That's what makes the difference. Ika de Ramela Mirma. Okay? They're here, they're one who teaches, others teach this as a contradiction. Okay? Namely, Tnan, the Mishnah teaches, Al Yedei Mamon Muteret Leba'ala. If it's regarding a situation of money, ultimately she's permitted to her husband. Urminhu, but we'll raise this contradiction and say, He'id Rabbi Yossi, B'chule, etc., Vaha Ashkelon, and we're regarding here in Ashkelon, the Al Yedei Mamon, that it was in regarding money. Okay? Ukatani, Ta'ama Da'edim Me'idimota. And the reason was, okay, that she would be permitted to her husband would be such that the witnesses, because there are witnesses, and they testified on her behalf that she was not secluded or tmeya. Ha, ein edim edimota? Lo. But if there were no witnesses to testify or to testify on her behalf, no. Okay? Umeshane. Okay, and what happens? And then we learn as follows. Amar Rab Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, lo kasha. It's not a problem here. Kan sheyad Yisrael tkifa al avdei kochavim. Here it could be a situation where the Jews were in authority. They had the upper hand over the Gentiles. Kan sheyad avdei kochavim tkifa al atzman. And here, on the other hand, it's where the Gentiles had the upper hand. Okay? And just to finish up, Al Yedei Nefashot Asura V'chule, we said here that if the Gentiles had the upper hand, right? I'm sorry, if it was a question of the capital case.
Of a capital crime.
Right, whether it was her
or her husband,
right? Amar Rav, says Rav, Kigon Nashe Ganavai. We're talking about example, the thieves, the wives of thieves. Okay? Why? Because they would be apprehended and hung, and then the wives would have to, they were just, so to speak, hefker. I'll use that phrase. Okay? That's the situation. V'Levi Amar, Levi says, Kagon Ishto Shel Ben Dunai. Okay, it was like she would be like the wife of Ben Dunai, who was a well-known murderer. But the Koran also had an interesting comment. In it, he was really, yes, he was a murderer. He was the head of a band of hooligans, whatever term we want to use. But they also carried out attacks against the Roman authorities. So it was not simply his crimes, okay, but also that he was clearly a threat to the local Roman authorities from a political point of view. So all the more so. So what happened? Again, if they captured him and killed him, which he ultimately was captured, okay? All right, two, his wife was fallen. Amar Chizkiya v'husha nigmar dinin laharega. And the situation was that he was condemned to death. But Rabbi Yochanan Amar afal pisha lo nigmar dinan laharega. Even in a situation where they were not condemned, okay, to death, nevertheless the wives would suffer, and they would be left to become prostitutes or whatever to provide them. Hefker. All right, and we'll stop there at the Mishnah for today. All right, and then we will again move through. I know it's a long, material, but we'll try to move the best we can over the next
We're
few
finishing
days.
very early. We still have time.
I know, but I have to admit to you that I had another commitment in the morning yesterday, and I went to, they needed to be sure to have a minion for an unveiling, so we went. So, all right. All right. So we'll pick up. Kaf Zion is actually the middle. Is tomorrow's daf, so it's big to do. So we'll see. Depends also on how difficult.
Depends on the guy getting the right guys.
No, well, we'll have a little bit more time tomorrow too, because it's not a Torah reading day. So, all right. So that's why I couldn't prepare a little further. All right. All right.
What did they buy? Extra chairs and things? They changed all the chairs?
I don't know. I don't know.
I will not be here tomorrow morning. I have a doctor's appointment. So you won't see me at Davening, but don't worry.
Okay.
And I won't be on Zoom either.
All right. Okay. I hope it's simply a normal doctor's.
It is.
All right. So we'll try to go through. If we're there in the middle of Kaf Zion, I'm looking to see what we've got. Again, it depends on how.
Ruben, you were learning with what by Burrow. How is he?
He's okay. He's very schwach. He's getting better.
Kaftet is short.
Right, Kaftet is short.
There's a
At
bit.
least the first.
Right. Lamed is not. Lamed is also not that long. Lamed Aleph is not that long. All right, we'll do what we can.
Well, I've been trying to help a little bit.
We'll do what we can.